Everyone's talking about it, and it's a big question on everyone's mind because they want clarity. People want clarity. Is Massachusetts bringing back rent control with a new name? And if it does, this isn't just about renters. This could impact your home value, your taxes, and your town's budget. And it can affect each town and city differently depending on how many properties they have that is affected. So today, based on my research, I'm going to try and break it all down without taking any sides, just delivering the facts. Welcome to Real Estate 360 with Janil, where I provide information to help you make informed, confident real estate decisions that build legacy and generational wealth. Let's get into it. This isn't just talk. This is a real proposal. It is called the Statewide Rent Stabilization Initiative, Petition 25-21. The main group that's currently gathering signatures for the 2026 ballot is this group called Home for All Massachusetts. Just to give you some perspective, there's already a split at the top. The mayor of Boston supports it, while the state governor is opposed. So yes, this could actually happen. And if it passes, it becomes mandatory statewide, and it is not optional town by town or city by city. Now, before we look forward, let's take a look back. Before 1994, rent control existed in places like Boston, Cambridge, and Brookline, and it was strict. Some rents were basically frozen for years. Then in 1994, Massachusetts voters passed Question 9, and rent control was banned and made illegal across Massachusetts. But here's what most people don't realize. After that ban, property values skyrocketed because now they can afford to charge higher rent. In Cambridge alone, housing value increased about 1.8 billion over 10 years. And more than half of that increase came from properties that were never even under rent control. Why? Because landlord could charge higher rent, and so they had the incentive to invest in their properties, and invest in the neighborhoods got improved as well. And that lifted all home values. Now with this new proposal is trying to shift things back, but it's doing it in a different way. So let's clear up the confusion. This is not the old rent control. This is rent stabilization. It does not freeze your rent. It caps how much it can increase each year. Here's how it works. Rent would be limited by inflation or 5%, whichever is lower. So if inflation is 3%, that's your max increase. If inflation is 7%, the cap stays at 5%. Now, here's the part a lot of people are missing, and landlords need to pay attention. If a landlord violates this law, it becomes a consumer protection issue on the Chapter 93A. That means triple damages and attorney fees. So this is serious enforcement. It is not just a suggestion. Now, let's talk about who actually is impacted. This is mainly targeting large apartment buildings and 2 to 4 families that are not owner occupied. Here are the key exemptions. Single family, exempt. Owner occupied, 2 to 4 families, exempt. New construction under 10 years old, exempt. Public housing and regulatory housing, exempt. And this is huge, especially for seniors. If you own a 2-family and you don't live in the unit, this can affect your overall income because you have no control. And that's a big deal. Now let's look at this from all sides, because this is where it gets nuanced. For tenants, the biggest benefit is predictability. No more sudden 20 to 30% rent increase. So it creates a sense of stability. But it doesn't lower your rent. It just limits the increase. But sometimes you get stuck. There's a thing called a golden handcuff. That's when people stays in a place longer than they want to, not because they love it, but because the rent is predictable and they can't afford to go somewhere else where it might be much higher. And so for landlords though, this could mean long-term tenants, which is good, but your income is capped while your expenses may keep rising. And over time, that can lead to deferred maintenance. And for the overall market, this is where it gets bigger. If income is capped, property values can come down. And that doesn't just affect investors. That can affect entire neighborhoods. Even if you've never rented out a house before or a property before, this could still affect you because real estate values are connected. If a large apartment building loses revenue, and they can pull down the value of the comparable homes nearby. Some studies suggest property value could drop over time. And if investors feel uncertain, they may pay less for properties. They may offer to pay less for properties. And builders may not want to invest in mid-level housing for fear they won't get a good return on their investment long-term after the 10 years. All those things affect our equity, whether you rent or not. Now, here's the part almost no one is talking about. Your town's budget. Towns like Randolph and Stoughton rely heavily on property taxes, and large apartment buildings are taxed as commercial properties. Often they are taxed at a higher rate. If rent cap reduces their value, the town collects less taxes, less tax revenue. So now there's a gap. And the town only had two options: cut services or shift that burden onto the homeowner by increasing property taxes. Just to give you some insight on cities and town, the city of Boston is at extreme high risk. About 58% of revenues come from commercial and industrial taxes. The city of Worcester is high risk. About 36% of revenue comes from commercial taxes. These towns like Stoughton is high as well at 39%. Towns like Randolph is moderate at 24%. Towns like Avon is unique, and they're high risk at 68%. I didn't even realize Avon had so many commercial properties. So depending on where you live, this could hit very differently. There are two quick things that you need to know right now. First, to stop landlords from raising rent right now in anticipation that this might pass, the base rent date is January 31st, 2026. That becomes the starting point for future increase. Second, there's a vacancy control. Even if a tenant moves out, the rent does not reset to market rate. The cap stays with the unit. I'm not really sure how they're gonna police that one, but they'll figure that out, I'm sure. So this really comes down to one question. Is this a necessary protection for renters, especially seniors and families trying to stay in their communities? Or does this create ripple effects that impact property values, investment, and even your taxes? That's the conversation Massachusetts is about to have. And I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know which town do you live in, and do you live in the city or suburbs, because it will affect you differently. If this information has helped you understand what's really going on, hit like or subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Janil, and as your local real estate agent, I'm here to help you make the right move when the time comes.